page 334. These are therefore the own words of your prophet of the present time, as he thus speaks them in your language understandable to you. They were woven into this message because they correspond to the deepest truth, and even from our level could not be better presented and explained. Consider yourselves therefore lucky that amongst you there is a prophet of this greatness. Respect his teaching and speaking, and respect his knowledge and his wisdom, for he brings the most fundamental knowledge of the new time. After these explanations, with the own words of your prophet, you can, after a mere cursory valuation of everything presented, also be inclined to attach hardly any greater significance to the material and worldly, which, however, would be very false, because even the material and worldly have great significance. This would mean an undervaluation of the material, through which a one-sided valuation would arise and lead to the half measure. The striving of the earth human being must go towards achieving a best possible, absolutely full development in all areas of his or her life, and for this reason you cannot fail to do without the material and worldly factors as long as you live as material forms. The material and worldly are a constituent part of your life through which you are able to live. For the emerging life is only there where the spirit enters into a connection with the material. This means that material and worldly things guarantee the preservation of the body and the material life. But these factors must not be attached with too great and overweighing significance, because the highest values lie in the evolution of the spirit and the consciousness. Material and worldly factors represent, therefore, only a means of help in order to let the true evolution go its way. In itself, however, material and worldly factors form an autonomous oneness, without which the body is not able to live. This explains that the body is therefore not able to live without the material and worldly, just as the body is, however, not able to live without the spirit. The material and worldly, in turn, is also only able to exist through the presence of the body, through which, again, a closed circle is formed. This now indeed explains the life with one understanding, not, however, the matter or composition of the material things, because everything in the universe must certainly have its origin, and finds this origin in the creation. Stated with simple words, this gives the result that also material things embody a form of spirit, namely, compacted spirit energy. This spirit energy, of which everything material is composed, in turn represents in certain form nourishment for the spirit, and therefore for the spirit form of the human being, because from this energy the spirit takes up fine fluidal constituent parts through its power, which are necessary for its upbuilding and its preservation. This therefore implies that the spirit also needs a special life-sustaining nourishment, just like the material body as well, only that the very nourishment of the spirit is composed of spiritual energetical form, and indeed in the finest form. This fact shows that all occurrences and all processes, etc., flow into each other, and that the one thing is processed into the other. This corresponds to the absolute creational logic, and precisely to this word logic should the earth human being once give his or her very special attention, because it is oftentimes falsely interpreted. Logic does not only mean, according to earth human understanding, the consequentiality of any fact, but rather the power of the creation. Derived from your ancient Greek language is the word logos, the valuation of which means creation power. Therefore, as the word logic is brought to use, it always implies creation power. Logic, therefore, does not only mean the usual sense of the consequentiality, but rather the absolute rightness out of the emergence from the creational power. This means that logic as creation power embodies true knowledge and wisdom in itself, and cannot be surpassed by anything. The highest is the creation, and the greatest power is that of the creation, and precisely this power can never be surpassed, because it is the power in the absolute. The power of the absolute, however, requires the absolute knowledge and the absolute wisdom. These embody the logic, therefore the creation power. Logic is, according to earth human intellect, only valued as consequentiality, whereas it, however, contains and designates in a consciousness-based sense the highest possible values. A purely intellect-based consequentiality can only be transferred to material things and found to be right. Consequently, it is also subject to ongoing renewals and changes. What is therefore consequential in an intellect-based manner today can already be inconsequential tomorrow. This is completely in contrast to the spiritual creational logic, which, as the last and greatest power, is never subject to changes and renewals, and is absolute through the time of all life, because it alone holds the truth within itself and remains always identical. Truth can only be covered up or pushed into the background by lies and falsifications, but it cannot be destroyed or changed by any power or might. So the truth always remains the truth, and it will always break through into the light again. If it is once pushed into the darkness, this is in turn a law of the creation in its power, namely in logic, through which it has secured its existence from the beginning. And precisely this knowledge has been lost to the earth human beings already thousands of years ago through a displacement into the forgottenness. Thereby he or she degraded the one-time act of creation of the whole in its spiritual origin to a pure brain activity of human discretion. The earth human being thereby debased the creation into a simple creature and thereby into a material being. The intellect of the brain was set above the logic of the spirit, through which the main cause of all later irrational ways and irrational teachings was created. The emphasis on the human intellect has brought along the distancing from the spirit, in which the fundamental problem of all erroneous development is to be found. The earth human being, in the knowledge of their intellect, turned in their researching and searching one-sidedly only to all material things, and the knowledge of the creational spirit not only receded into the background, but it was even lost. Thereby, the source of the life, of the real being, ran dry, the being of the creation. In the delusion of the overbearingness, the earth human beings crowned themselves as the creation itself, and had the audacity to make themselves the origin of the being. But this attempt failed, because they had to fail, for the creation alone holds within itself the power to carry all life. The earth human being is also not able to pass by this truth heedlessly if they want to understand the true sense of the life, because the source of all things lies in the creational. Through the recognition of this truth, there arises, in all searching and researching, the question as to why the creation in its all wisdom has created the earth human being and all other life forms in the endless expanses of the universe. But the purpose-emphasized intellect of the earth human being simply pushes this question aside, because through their thinking, which is contrary to the law of the creation, he or she is only able to look at and consider everything from the perspective of the form of appearance, and hence values them according to their material and worldly usefulness. Only a material form of appearance thus imparts a certain value to them, whereas spiritual forms of appearance seem senseless and unvalueful to them. The Earth human's intellect-based research and the intellect-based searching thus have not only actually forgotten and lost the creation, but have also denied it, or simply falsified it, up to the point of unrecognizability through religions. In the delusion of the overbearingness, the sciences have proceeded to degrade the workings, activities, and creations of the creation as pure workings, activities, and creations of the natural powers, and to take away from them the origin of the creational. These delusional fantasies are called natural sciences and natural philosophies by the earth human being, which are fundamentally based only on opinions and are spread as malicious, irrational teachings. The natural scientific and natural philosophical explanations of the world's contexts force the earth human being more and more into the pattern of the general insanity of irrational teachings which are foreign to creation, and into purely worldly materialistic thinking, through which the last knowledge of the truth must definitively be lost. As the second malicious factor of the same order of magnitude are the religions to be mentioned. Even if they stand as opposing powers to the natural sciences and natural philosophies, their irrational teachings, however, are no less dangerous and no less estranging from the creation. In the place of the creation, they have put a god, or more, who must be worshipped in submissiveness and, spiritlessness. The thinking in spiritual form is forbidden to the believers, and they are threatened with purgatory and damnation, if one should nevertheless have the audacity to ask about the how, where, and why.